Hey everyone, I want to welcome you all to this Wrap Week webinar. I am going to give us just a few minutes or just maybe 30 seconds to see if anybody else is going to join us, and then we'll get started. So thank you so much for being here this afternoon and taking time out to join me here. First, I want to say hello and welcome to the White Ribbon Against Pornography Week webinar series sponsored by the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. The National Center on Sexual Exploitation works to address the public health crisis of pornography, in addition to exposing the links between all forms of sexual exploitation. The center is a national sponsor of White Ribbon Against Pornography Week, which is an annual national week of public awareness and education about the harms of pornography. You can learn more about this movement at endsexualexploitation.org. And for those who are wondering who the talking voice is, it is me, Crystal Renaud. I'm the founder of Dirty Girls Ministries, as well as an author, a speaker, and a life coach. And you can see where you can compare at the bottom of the slide. This is going to be a PowerPoint-driven presentation, so sorry if you were hoping to see my face, but this is as much of my face as you're going to be seeing today. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. For the purposes of this webinar, we are talking about the female sexual pornography addict. And unfortunately, there's a lot of myths about pornography addiction. And one of those myths is that porn is only a problem for men, when in reality, it is a much larger issue among women. In fact, 1 in 5 women use the internet for sexual purposes on a weekly basis. And that's from a survey written up by Covenant Eyes back in 2013. It's my non-researcher, but a person who works with women every day, opinion that it's growing, and it's even more than that today. Another myth about pornography users is that they are perverts. Often in certain circles, especially those who are fighting pornography or fighting the porn industry and things like that, we like to victimize porn addicts and porn users as being dirty and men who, oh my goodness, I can't believe that they exploit women the way they do. But in reality, many porn users started becoming a porn user at a very young and innocent age. For example, the truth is, this is a porn addict. In fact, this is me at the age of 11 after I stumbled upon my brother's pornography stash in his bathroom. And if you would allow me just a few minutes, I do want to share with you my own personal story so that you can hear from a woman who has struggled and what it is like for a woman to have struggled. As I was saying, I stumbled upon pornography innocently. I was actually 10 years old, just a few months shy of my 11th birthday. I was home alone in my house. I did a very normal afternoon, like I always did. Came home from school, grabbed a snack from the fridge. I was going to go downstairs and watch TV. And instead, I made a detour to the bathroom. And in there on the counter was an explicit pornographic magazine. It wasn't just a mild magazine. This was a magazine that had full sexual, explicit material, actually showing intercourse between a man and a woman and things like that as well. So it wasn't just a Playboy of a centerfold. This was an explicit magazine of sexual acts being displayed in the pages. When I saw that magazine, I was immediately filled with 2 different feelings. The first one was one of shame, like this is something that I'm not supposed to be looking at. And then the second feeling immediately wiped that one out and said, wow, I kind of like this. This is intriguing. I've never seen anything like this. In fact, I've never seen a naked man in my life. And now I'm seeing a naked man with a naked woman in a sexual act. It was intriguing. It was almost euphoric. It filled me with a high like I had never experienced before. And it was one that I was going to keep silent to myself because I did not want that feeling to go away. Fast forward a couple of years, I am a young teenager. I am still viewing pornography where I can find it at home, whether that is on television when my brothers were able to crack the cable box code, or on our internet when I was able to get around filtering. Whatever it was, I was looking for pornography everywhere, every day on a regular basis. It even went as far as looking at pornography on my school's computer. And even when I was 15 and I was now actively in the church, I actually volunteered at church after school, but I also looked at pornography at church after school. It was not just that I was consuming pornography, it was that pornography was consuming me. I was absolutely addicted to this material. And not only was I addicted to the material, I was addicted to how it made me feel. I was addicted to the other behaviors it drew me to, like compulsive masturbation, phone sex, cyber sex, chatting online, pretty much anything I could do sexually as a teenage girl that I possibly could, just shy of actually having sex with someone. So for me, my faith was very important to me. My virginity was very important to me. I didn't want to lose my virginity before marriage, but pornography certainly was the next best thing. And sex chat rooms were the next best thing. And phone sex was the next best thing. And all of this started at the young age of 10, almost 11 years old, when I found one magazine in my brother's bathroom. So I want you to consider, I'm almost 32 years old now. So we're talking 22 years ago when I stumbled upon this. Imagine how much easier it is now for children to come across pornography every single day. If you have a smartphone in your purse, in your backpack, in your pocket, right next to you while you're watching this webinar, there's porn on that. And our children have porn in their pocket every day. And so we have to start talking about this at a very young age because it's getting them at a young age. My recovery did not happen until I was almost 19 years old. So you're talking about an almost 9-year struggle with pornography and compulsive sexual behavior in my life until another person, well, actually, more importantly, another woman shared her struggle with me. She said, Crystal, I used to watch porn in high school. I was addicted to pornography in high school. And what you need to know, as a listener today, I had absolutely no idea that other women struggled. I absolutely 100% believed I was the only one. Out of however many trillion and billion, I don't even know how many people are actually in the world, but I really believed I was the only woman. And here's why. No one ever talked about it being a problem for women. 100% of the time, whether it was at school in just regular conversation, whether it was on the pulpit at church, etc., no one ever said women watch porn, women struggle with porn. Every bit of that dialogue was men. Men struggle. This is an issue for men. Men watching pornography is adultery against your wife. Men don't watch pornography, it's exploiting to women. Men don't do this, men don't do that. And of course, I am sitting in the audience or outside of a conversation and hearing that it's a man's problem. And so what am I supposed to be thinking? There's something wrong with me. I am the only woman who struggles with this. because no one is talking about it. And so for me to hear from this woman when I was just a few weeks actually shy of my 19th birthday, when she was telling me, this live person in front of me in the flesh telling me, this woman telling me I had a struggle with pornography in high school, it was an absolute shock to my system. One, I thought she kind of knew about me somehow or caught me at church or something. And so she was trying to corner me to get me to confess. But in reality, she was a woman willing to be vulnerable, willing to say, I struggled, and gave me the opportunity to say, me too. And it was through that relationship with her and personally with a relationship with Jesus Christ that I have, that I was able to have the freedom that I have today, thankfully now, 13 years later. I'm very thankful for that woman because I don't know where I would be today if not for that experience of hearing her confession. Which brings me to the next slides. I want you to hear some quotes from women who I spoke to who admitted that they struggled with pornography in their past, whether they are now in recovery or not yet, and how they felt as women struggling in a culture where it's only a problem for men. Lacey says, I felt stigmatized as a woman who would watch porn or masturbate. Everyone I talked to early on would respond like, oh, wow, really? I thought that was a guy thing. Jenny says that when she discovered other women struggle with porn, she remembered feeling of shock that other women struggled too. I was not the only one. And Sarah says, I'm addicted to pornography and it's destroying me. I feel alone and I don't know what to do. So first step here is understanding that pornography does not discriminate, goes a long way in battling the porn problem at large. We can't overlook entire demographics, whether it's, men, women, children, teenagers, the elderly, different cultures that culturally are not, sexually expressive. Doesn't matter what it is. We cannot overlook entire demographics when discussing addiction and use of pornography. And you might be thinking, but I didn't think women were visual. Well, I want to tell you that they are. But the thing about women is women are sexual or visual consumers of pornography, but what makes them different from men is that they are emotional consumers as well. We can look at this from a cultural perspective, especially in the last year or so, last couple of years, when things like 50 Shades of Grey have come out, and they basically have shown women that it's okay to be, sexually expressive. But the problem is the way that sexual expression is being shown is through violent means, that it's okay for a man to abuse you sexually if you give him consent. But the reality is it's never okay to be victimized sexually, ever. But this is what women are being shown as a normal way of having sexual expression. And the more we are exposed to something, the more normalized it becomes. And so women are watching or are reading erotic novels like 50 Shades of Grey, and then they're watching the film in the theaters with their girlfriends at girls' night out, and then they realize, wow, but the books are over. What now? What else can I read and watch? And in a very real way, they are gravitating towards pornography because pornography in itself is exploitive to women. It's already very violent towards women, and so it's exactly what they're already filling their heads with on a regular basis. So addiction among women is only being asked to grow as culture is basically telling them that it's okay. Now, what do women do when they realize, I have a problem? They go to, hopefully, somebody at their church or a counselor or a community group of some kind, and they say, I have a struggle with pornography, but here's the deal. Women are often thrown into a recovery group full of male porn addicts, and that's not a safe place for women to find recovery. Women need their own space with other women who struggle like they do. It's not safe for men to have women in a group for sexual addicts. It's not safe for women to be in a group of just men. Co-ed recovery leads to further victimization, both for men and for women. Because when you're talking about sexual addiction and talking about pornography addiction, you're basically, if you're talking about being a co-ed recovery environment, you're basically asking that woman to victimize a man, potentially through temptation, or vice versa. It's not a good idea. And so what do we do for these women? They need support that meets the need that they struggle with. We go back to what we talked about before with women are visual, but they are emotional. Their addiction is heavily driven by fantasy, okay, by their emotions. There's a study by the International Journal of Impotence Research back in 2013 that found that conditions for women to become aroused are more complex than men. Men preferred, well, basically men and women were both studied. They were both given audio-visual stimulation. One was physical, meaning it was all just kind of animalistic sexual pornography, where it was a lot of just bumping and grinding and, sexual acts. Whereas for women, it was a mood type, much more about a storyline, much more, they kind of gradually got to the sex portion after you had seen a relationship was established. And of course, men preferred the physical, hard pornography, whereas women preferred the softer, relational pornography. And so that's the difference. And that's why when you're talking about recovery, they're recovering from two different types of needs. But unfortunately, there are very few resources that are out there in the world specifically for women. There are organizations that help both, but at the same time, we don't need the same. We need things that are for ourselves, just for women. And I do want to share with you, yes, it's a shameless plug, but Dirty Girls Ministries is available as a resource. We offer online community and groups for women who struggle with pornography. We offer daily recovery emails. We equip leaders. This is our favorite thing, is to equip leaders on a local level on how to talk about this topic, how to actually help women. We offer a weekly prayer call. We have an app, coaching services, and more. We are one of the only ministries of its kind specifically for women who struggle with porn. And so I highly encourage you to either check us out, or if you're a counselor or a leader of some kind, use us as a referral source for you. But also, Beggars, who is, she's in the fight with us. She has been blogging for many years and sharing information, for women who struggle, as a woman who has struggled. She's written books. She's writes her blog. She speaks. Many of you probably heard her at the summit in September, and then the Set Free Summit earlier this year. Gifted communicator. She really knows how to share this topic in a way people can really understand it. And so we're thankful that she's in this movement with us. My book, Dirty Girls Come Clean, it's a personal or group study. It is actually created to be a recovery tool for women who struggle with pornography. I'm giving a discount today, 20% off, promo code WRAP20 to anybody who wants one. You can order it at crystalrenaud.com/books. So enough with the plugs, but I want you to understand there's very few resources available for women specifically. And here's where your role in helping women comes in. You have to acknowledge that women struggle too, and provide opportunity for people like us who do this work to share about it. Bring us to your church to speak. Have an event to talk about it. Have an event for parents so that they can know how to safeguard their daughters from this stuff, because so many times parents think about their sons. My mom thought about my brothers. She was not thinking about her daughter viewing pornography. And so when she was putting in filters on our internet and putting a lock on our cable box, she was not thinking about her little girl. She was thinking about her sons. And so they have to come to an understanding that girls struggle. And we as a community of porn fighters have to begin to give women safe places to heal. I want to talk to those now. Maybe you're watching this webinar because you yourself struggle. And I understand that struggle more than probably anyone. And I do want to go through just a few steps to kind of help you on your way in your recovery as well. I approach recovery from a biblical perspective because I am a Christian. I rely on Jesus Christ to get me through. But the steps of recovery that I use with our women and in general are the same for all. And those steps are surrender, confession, accountability, responsibility, and sharing. It spells the word scars, which is pretty cool. And the first step is to surrender. We have to understand one's powerlessness to the addiction and relinquish control, any control we might think we have over it. We are powerless. If we could overcome it by ourselves by now, we would have. So you have to surrender the idea that you can do it on your own. The second step is confession. Addiction feeds on isolation. Being able to confess one struggle to another person allows for authentic relationships to begin. We have to bring the struggle to light, because the longer it's in the dark, the darker it gets. But once you bring light to something, it can't be darkened again. So confession is key. Third, accountability. Authentic relationships, like those relationships that we confess to, become accountable relationships. When temptation strikes, accountability is critical. Do not go at it alone, because it doesn't work to do it by yourself. Fourth, responsibility. Responsibility is basically personal responsibility. Acknowledging where your past behaviors have brought harm is an important step toward healing oneself and other relationships, because we know that addiction, because there's so much lying and so much deceit and deception around addiction, we know that our behaviors have brought harm to self and others. And we have to acknowledge that and make amends. The last step is sharing. After somebody has entered into recovery and really into some time with sobriety, it's imperative that they begin to share their story so that others can find freedom too. If we find freedom and not tell anybody about our story and how we found that freedom, then we are only further creating the silence. So we have to get to that point where we really are talking about it and acknowledging that this really is a problem. And so that's my webinar today. I know it's kind of tricky from a fire hose, and I was talking kind of fast, but I didn't want to take up too much of your time, because I'm so thankful that you are here to actually learn this information and to acknowledge that and bring women into this dialogue of pornography addiction. Again, my book is available, promo code RAP20, crystalrenaud.com. But I wish, like more than anything, that this webinar today allowed for Q&A, but it doesn't. And so if you have questions, comments, thoughts about any of this stuff, please reach out to me. I'm available. I'm on social media pretty much everywhere. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere with the username Crystal Renaud. Reach out to me, send me a message, send me a DM, or you can email me, info@dirtygirlsministries.com. I want to have this conversation with you. I want the opportunity to share more. And so I hope that you'll give me that. And I thank you very much for attending and listening. And thank you for your interest in helping women with this issue. And again, you can learn more about Rap Week and the National Center on Sexual Exploitation at endsexualexploitation.org. Thanks so much.